This is the Preparing for the ACT 2021-2022 reading passage number 2. If you have a particular question you want to see explained, go click on that in the description box. So here, this is an informational text. The title is Notes from a Wedding. Now, if we just read the title, we're led to believe, okay, this may be a story about a couple getting married. But it's actually not, because all you have to do is read the very first sentence. It was never Kenny Holmes' intention to become a wedding singer. Okay, so we're not talking about a wedding. We're talking about probably this guy named Kenny Holmes. So question number 11 says, what is the main purpose of this passage? And what I've done in the options is to highlight some of the key words and phrases. Letter A, explain why musical tastes changed over time. Now, did his musical tastes change? Yes, they did. But it didn't really explain why. It's sort of something that just passes through the text instead of something that they explain why it happened. And so we discount letter A because it doesn't say why. Does it describe his hectic professional life and how it affected his personal life? It does describe it, but that's not the purpose of it. If it were the main purpose, then we would be focusing on how he worked so hard and how it took away his time from family. So that's not the answer. Letter C, highlight the different musical instruments he mastered to becoming a famous musician. Well, actually, he didn't so much become a musician as he became an enterprising band leader. And so that is the main purpose of this passage, is letter D. Number 12, the theme of the passage. The difference between the theme and the purpose is, okay, why was it written? The theme is, all right, what is sort of the underlying idea about it? And so what I've underlined in different colors is, here are some different phrases. And the question is, if you've read the passage, you want to ask yourself, all right, which of these phrases most likely resonates with the idea of the passage? These exact phrases may not even be used once. And so if you're trying to diagnose and just pick out the key phrase, that may not work. You may have to actually skim through the passage in order to deduce that, well, one thing that happened with Holmes is that he had a lot of different experiences that allowed him to pivot to others. So that's why it's letter F. It's not about talent, because he wasn't the best musician. And it doesn't talk about much in the way of his failures. And then it also didn't really set up the dichotomy of one's dreams versus practical matters. So letter F was the theme. Number 13, which of these events occurred last chronologically? So I've highlighted these 4 names because these 4 names and phrases only show up once each time. So as you can see in blue, the first one that happens, if we go by chronologically through the text, the first one is he started Sound Ideas, so that wasn't it. The next one is driving a limousine, so that wasn't it. And then finally, we're down to Taylor and Bronner. Now, what's difficult is that in this sentence, it says Sam Bronner, the drummer, and Atiba Tyler, the sax player. They're mentioned in the same sentence. So how are we supposed to tell? Well, keep reading. They've played with him for 3 and 4 years, respectively. This is the key right here, for 3 and 4 years, respectively. So the question is, they're both here at the same time, but who's been playing longer? Atiba's been playing longer because it says 3 and 4 years respectively. She's been playing for 4. Sam Bronner has been playing for 3. So who joined later? It's Sam Bronner, not Atiba Taylor. So number 14, based on the passage, the resident of Gordon Heights. Again, this is a key phrase that only shows up once, right here in this first paragraph. And so if we read the words around it, it says, a small black community founded on like-minded thinkers. And it also says they didn't come here to fool around, who handed down to their children their own keen sense of ambition. So that means they have ambition, they're definitely driven, and they didn't come here to fool around. That means they're kind of optimistic. They're here to get to work. All right. Number 15, we're asked the main purpose of the third paragraph. So that is lines 13 through 22. So that is this paragraph. And one of the easy ways to determine the purpose is just to read the first line, the first sentence, and the last sentence. So the first sentence reads, like any American boy in the 50s and 60s, he was fascinated with popular music. In the last sentence, I was 16. It was a Sunday night, he says. I sat down and played I Can't Get No Satisfaction. I was addicted. So we talked about the 50s and 60s with popular music. And then Sunday night sat down and played the song Can't Get No Satisfaction, and he was addicted. So does it explain why he preferred rhythm and blues to Sinatra songs? Nope. Does it establish that his parents disapproved of his interests? Nope. Does it reveal that he was a musical prodigy? No. It doesn't say that. But what it does say is that it inspired. The key word here is because it says I was addicted. That was the main purpose. Number 16, same idea with the next paragraph. He says, while he was not a virtuoso, he discovered good at making money. That's the first sentence. The last sentence, we got pretty popular on the island, playing battles of the bands, fire halls, high school proms for $10 a night. So was he better at playing music than he was promoting his band? No. That first sentence says he wasn't a virtuoso, but he made good money at it. What about letter J? He would have more success if he had taken the time to learn more songs. No, because in the middle it says all they needed was 3 songs. They said Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones and I Love Her by the Beatles, Shotgun by Junior Walker and the Stars. They played those 3 songs every night. They didn't say anything about they would have made more. Holmes' band made a national phenomenon. Nope, because it says they played out on the island. So that is a very local place. He didn't go all across the country, just wherever their island was. So letter G, they were able to earn money despite their limited repertoire. They're only playing 3 songs, but they were making money. Number 17, key phrase here, wedding and private parties. That phrase only shows up once, right here at the top, right at line 55, 54, and 55. So if we back up to the start of that paragraph, it says the club scene began to wear on him. Unwilling to resign himself to the life of a starving artist, an agent approached him in the early 90s to specializing in wedding and private parties, and Holmes decided to try it. So he didn't want to become a starving artist. So with a starving artist, the key phrase is more profitable. He wanted to make more money. Didn't say anything about travel. Didn't say anything about wider variety or easier to please. Just simply was about the money. Number 18, 73 through 80. Now with this one, we want to get the main idea of the paragraph. But unfortunately, just reading the first and last sentence doesn't work. Why? Because here is the first sentence. Oops. We've got, starting here with Holmes. This right here is the first sentence. Holmes would use as many as 8 musicians and 2 singers for weddings. The rest of the paragraph is the last sentence. So you kind of have to skim through that to see that he accepts turnover, but his current core lineup has been fairly steady. And then he's got these. Then he's got the list of Sam Bronner, Atiba Taylor, and Bruce Robinson. So that means that's why letter H is the correct answer. Because nope, he's been able to stay consistent with these 3 members of his band. Doesn't say anything about needing more members, and it doesn't say that his core is constantly changing. And so with 19, that also deals with the idea of band members, but it doesn't mention their names. It really talks about playing music. So it's actually more about this last paragraph. And it says he lets his musicians take the lead. And that's where he allows his band members to showcase their talents. They don't really say much about the Washington club scene or use sophisticated elements. Then finally, number 20, it says, in the passage, the phrase something more canned. Line 86 and 87, something more canned. So if we read that in its whole sentence, it says, during performance, he lets his musicians take the lead and uses specialized, stripped-down tracks to set the tempo and fill in musical parts where necessary, ultimately preferring the messy alchemy of live music to something more canned. Well, one thing you can do is to take this phrase out and try these others. The alchemy of live music to sound effects? Maybe. Live music to music videos? Doesn't say anything about music videos. Live music to improvised? Well, those two are kind of the same thing. Live music to recorded music. There we go. Those two are kind of opposites of each other. Live music is one thing, and recorded music is another. Thanks for watching. Check out all the other videos on this preparing for the ACT 2021-2022. Good luck.